It is the biggest night in Hollywood. The stars are arriving. The fans are getting very excited.
The Oscars are this night of class and grace.
The biggest moment in all of Hollywood.
So when something goes wrong, that's what's so notable about it.
An Oscar flub is when somebody screws up at the most important night in Hollywood.
You don't see normal people at Oscar flubs. That's just for the famous.
As a style editor, I know how much planning goes into just what they're wearing to the Oscars, let alone the whole night and producing it.
The pressure of presenting an Oscar is enormous. It's so enormous that you really have to try your best to let go of the idea that everybody is watching you and looking at every single detail of everything.
I'm telling you, there is no eyebrow hair unplucked. There's no dress out of place.
Every hair and otherwise, I would be completely paralyzed out of fear and I think incapable of doing it.
Everyone's looking at you. The fate of people's futures are on your shoulders.
It's pretty scary.
Awards show culture has grown more intense over the years. So much so that some of the biggest Oscar flubs of all time have happened pretty recently.
As someone who watches these events, I'm really only watching them to see that happen. I'm just praying every time. Just please, someone flub it up.
Oscars mix-ups and mess-ups might go viral these days, but it's not like everything was all perfect before the internet.
Flubs have been happening at the Oscars since pretty much the beginning of the Oscars.
Maybe the first flub ever on record occurred way back in 1934 at the 6th Academy Awards.
Frank Capra and Frank Lloyd were both nominated for Best Director. Will Rogers is reading the winner of the category, and all he says is, "Come on up and get it, Frank." Well, which Frank is it, sir?
That presenter, messy.
Quite frankly, there's too many Franks in Hollywood.
The balls it takes to just assume you won an Oscar is amazing. That is legend stuff.
Well, it wasn't on TV, so it doesn't matter. It didn't happen.
Another big Oscar flub was in 1964 at the 36th Oscars, when Sammy Davis Jr. was presenting 2 awards for Best Score. Essentially, it was original and adapted score. Sammy actually announced the winner for the second category after he read the nominees for the first. Whoops.
So in 1974, my favorite of all the Oscar flubs is a man comes out and streaks in the middle of the ceremony. So you're just looking for one golden man and you're seeing someone else's mini golden man.
But what happened next is Elizabeth Taylor came on stage to present Best Picture.
Elizabeth Taylor comes out like an absolute angel and makes a joke, says that's a hard act to follow.
Maybe she got a good view. She knew that it was a hard act.
Who's quick enough and witty enough to come up with a line? You do not want anybody else but Liz Taylor to be following your streaker.
Girl, Elizabeth Taylor does that to people. I would probably react the same way. If I was in the same room as Elizabeth Taylor, I would probably rip my clothes off and run across the stage as well.
With this next flub in 1985, what's interesting is who presents. Best Picture is often given out by a Hollywood icon, someone often much older, to really give some weight to the biggest award of the night.
Laurence Olivier takes the stage. He's a Hollywood legend. There's a huge standing ovation, and when he then should have been saying the names of the nominees for Best Picture, he just says Amadeus. He just reads what's on the envelope.
You didn't read any of the nominees?
Laurence Olivier just says Amadeus because maybe that's all that needs to be said.
We don't need to read these losers' names. It's not an honor just to be nominated.
I guess if your place is in the heart, you're sitting there yeah, I guess I knew it was going to be Amadeus the whole time too. Let's just get this over with. He wanted to get to the after, like a lot of people.
Peace. Let's go eat pizza.
This next one's really controversial because some people absolutely will call it a flub, but there are some people who think it was not an accident at all.
It's the 85th Oscars, all the way back in 2013. Jennifer Lawrence has just won for Best Actress for Silver Linings Playbook.
She's on her way up to the stage to accept her trophy, and then disaster strikes. Or does it?
I'm a Jennifer Lawrence falling on her way to accept the Oscars truther. I think it was staged.
I think it was freaking cute.
Now, In all fairness, her gown is very big and she couldn't really look down to see the stairs. Just saying.
I think the fall was on purpose. I think she said, make the dress a few inches longer in the front. No, trust me.
Every single time someone goes up to get an award now, I think of Jennifer Lawrence. I go, don't Jennifer Lawrence.
I remember when Marissa Tomei fell, also going up to get her Oscar for My Cousin Vinny. There was a kind of moment where everybody's like, oh, you love them for it.
Those moments are all pretty fun, but just think of them as previews to two of the biggest blunders in Oscars history, starting with the 86th Academy Awards in 2014.
Disney's juggernaut Frozen had debuted to universal praise that year, and it became the highest grossing animated movie ever at that time, so nobody was too surprised when it went on to have a huge night at the Oscars. It was nominated and won for both animated feature and original song for Let It Go.
Let it go, let it go. I mean, my nieces are still singing it, I'm singing it.
You could not enter any bodega in New York without hearing Let It Go being played.
It's the song that many parents have been singing with their kids. It's an iconic song.
Children across the world, parents, their ears bleeding because they could not escape Let It Go. We couldn't let it go.
The Oscar producers had booked Idina Menzel, Elsa herself, to belt out her song during the ceremony, and Hollywood icon John Travolta was set to introduce her.
I remember there was a chill in the air, and it wasn't Olaf.
I'm Olaf, and I like warm hugs.
John Travolta comes out just with the most beautiful wig you've ever seen, and just the most tanned face and looking beautiful, looking gorgeous.
But when the big moment arrived, Idina Menzel was not who he called to the stage.
The wickedly talented Adele Dazeem.
He called her names that are not even in the same genre of name. There should have been a steak dinner after this butchering.
I'm sitting there watching the Oscars with friends and all of a sudden we're like, wait, what? Did he say Adele? We're like, that's definitely not Adele performing this.
She's Adele's sister.
We kept rewinding it to see, like, how do you get Adele Dazeem out of Idina Menzel, and the only common denominator is the letter Z?
All of my friends were, of course, musical theory people, and they were like, you screw up Alphaba's name? The Alphaba? Okay, all right.
He blew it.
And by the way, this is a guy who should know people from musicals. He was in Grease. He was in Hairspray.
Take away his Grease credit for being bad at musical theater history.
You hurt me real bad. You know it's true.
Not only was he introducing the song, but Idina Menzel had to sing Let It Go live, which is very, very hard even for Idina Menzel. I keep wanting to say Adele Dazeem. She was gonna have to hit those Frozen notes, and he didn't help her with that.
It made me realize that, like, oh, famous people don't know other famous people.
But I know John Travolta well, and he's not gonna know who Idina Menzel is. There's something about John Travolta that is unreachable as a star, the last part of the golden age of Hollywood. Part of a Hollywood elite that doesn't even exist anymore. Not necessarily know everything about modern culture, everything about what's happening. He's just not gonna know.
Forget about Danny, forget about Saturday Night Fever, forget about it all. Babe, you're going down in history as the Adele Dazeem guy to an entire generation of people.
If John had just messed up Idina's name, I think we would have gotten over it and it wouldn't still be lingering around years later. But it was the entire delivery that just caught on.
The wickedly talented.
Wickedly?
Yeah, it's the wickedly talented. That's the funnier part to me.
There's something so beautiful about the cadence in which he says the wickedly talented Adele Dazeem.
Like that cadence, you have to get, it's so confident until you get to the Adele Dazeem of it all.
It is like the runner-up. It's the best supporting actress of that moment in time.
I feel like he didn't know, John Travolta didn't know the Wicked reference. I think that It was probably highlighted in the teleprompter.
They talk about the Oscars being the gay Super Bowl, and it's just like the wickedly talented Adele Dazeem was like seeing somebody catch a Hail Mary pass and make the game-winning touchdown. We all knew in that moment that we were a part of history watching this.
It was shock, it was terror, then it was joy, then it was tweet. And then everybody was just tweeting about it.
It took off, babe.
Slate magazine rushed out an Adele Dazeem name generator the next day, promising to Travoltify any name fed into it.
It was the must-have accessory of that year, is your own version of Adele Dazeem.
You can still go to it and find out what yours is.
I'm gonna Travoltify my name. Okay, here we go.
Gracie Hoyle.
The wickedly talented Mustafa.
The rough and tough Dave Prezif.
The hugely disrespectful Jed Kazing.
Alyssa Tufker.
Antoine Lee, with several E's, is my Travoltified name. And you know what? I like it better than mine.
Sammy Greaves. And now I am ready to sing my song.
While we all spent Oscars night laughing about Adele Dazeem, there was the question, is John Travolta going to address this? Is he going to say something about it?
2 days later, John Travolta broke his silence. He released a statement to the LA Times that said, "I've been beating myself up all day." Then I thought, what would Idina Menzel say? She'd say, "Let it go, let it go." Idina is incredibly talented, and I am so happy Frozen took home 2 Oscars Sunday night.
It's a cute apology. He put in "Let It Go." What else is he supposed to say? He made a horrible mistake. He felt bad.
I think it's a little on the nose. It would have been camp if he had referenced Rent. That's the reference that needed to be shoehorned into that statement.
Later that month, Billboard asked Idina Menzel about the entire ordeal.
What went through your mind when you heard John Travolta introduce you?
Oh, well, I was very zen. I had all of these visuals set for myself to really just stay focused and stay in the moment and enjoy it, not think about all the crazy celebrities out there. And then that happened, and that threw me for a minute.
But then she said she got back on track and reminded herself where she was, and that John even sent her a gorgeous email.
We're buddies, and it's all cool, and please, I mean, I've only benefited from it.
That is a diplomatic answer. Idina, you knew what you wanted to say was, nah, F him, forget him, and the movie Face Off was just okay.
2 months later, Idina Menzel basically gave the same story on Watch What Happens Live.
But it did bother me for like 8 seconds. It just threw me a little bit.
How many times a
But
day?
now it's the best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, but now, of course, yeah.
How many times a day do people say Adele Dazeem, Adele Dazeem?
Not so much anymore, because I don't.
But it's a great
respond.
story and will be for years to come.
Yes.
I know.
Julie Andrews is like, I've never heard of any of these people. I don't know what you're talking about.
The fact that Julie Andrews is in any part involved in this is truly camp. Like, okay, so we love this Sound of Music Grease Wicked crossover. We might as well just like do the show now. I'll write it. Ryan Murphy will executive produce.
She got to go on Andy Cohen's show, sit next to him, and have Mary Poppins tell her that everything's okay. She literally got a spoonful of sugar from everyone's most magical nanny.
A full year later, the Oscars brought John and Idina back to present Best Original Song together. And like often happens at awards show, they did a bit referencing the year before.
The great and fabulous and powerful Glomgazingo.
You can't reverse engineer in a lab Adele Dazeem. Like Adele Dazeem just has to be an organic of the earth grown moment, you know? And so like it actually becomes, it almost sullies the memory of Adele Dazeem to try and write a joke for them to do.
Right after Glomgazingo, John Travolta appeared on Jimmy Kimmel's After the Oscar special, and he tried to tell us the reason he said Adele Dazeem a year earlier.
Suddenly, a page, an assistant to you, grabbed me out of the seat and said, "You're on in a minute and 15 seconds or something." He said, "Really?" I said, "What happened to 15 minutes?"
Yeah.
They said, "Well, they didn't explain."
Or should I say many reasons?
Well, later I found out that my actual page got stuck in an elevator and couldn't communicate to anybody. So then the backup page came to rush to get me.
What happened to that page? How long was he in the elevator? Did he get out?
Where do they conduct this ceremony? Like the Haunted Mansion?
And then John's story gets even wilder.
As I get backstage, I run into Goldie Hawn. Now, Goldie Hawn is charismatic, sexy, beautiful. She's got the amazing thing, and I was starstruck.
I love Goldie Hawn as an agent of chaos.
When all else fails, if something goes wrong in Hollywood, just blame it on Goldie Hawn. It always works.
I'm starstruck, hugging and loving her up and forgetting that I have to go and do this bit. And they said, "You're on." I said, "Goldie, we'll talk. You're going to one of the parties?" I said, "Okay, we'll see you then."
He has 1 minute, and then he's like, "But I got 20 seconds for Goldie Hawn." I mean, Goldie Hawn gets some of the minute. I need to know what party she's going to.
And by the way, we have photographic proof, evidence. We see the two of them backstage together, talking and chatting moments before he's supposed to go on stage. In what has to be like seconds before he goes out on stage, there's another photo of John like looking at the script.
They said, "Oh, by the way, we've changed Adina's name to phonetic spelling." I went, but what do you mean? Go! So I go out there, and in my mind, I'm going, what is that name? I don't know that name.
That clip is wild to me for multiple reasons. First of all, he blamed everyone but himself.
You don't need phonetic spelling for Idina Menzel. It's Idina Menzel. How do you pronounce Idina Menzel? You pronounce it like the actress Idina Menzel.
Maybe it's the thing where the adrenaline is hitting you and the words are sort of shifting in your mind as you're looking at them.
Let's think about this. Let's think about how the Idina Menzel could be written out phonetically.
I can see the beginning.
There's probably an so like maybe like an AH, which is already I'm thrown off because I'm not seeing the letter that I think.
A-D, U-N-A, Adina, or Adina. Yeah, no.
And then he just saw a Z. And he was like, I'm on a train and I don't know where I'm going.
I take it back. I don't see how it could happen.
Girl, I don't know. I don't know how it happened.
I don't know. Blame it on Goldie Hawn.
So this was Goldie Hawn's fault. Wow.
Maybe.
I would never forgive her.
We could never forget Adele Dazeem, but maybe the biggest flub in Oscar history happened just a few years later, in the final moments of 2017's Academy Awards.
It's one of those moments that you can just watch over and over again, and I have.
Confusion, fear, anger.
It was only the 89th Oscar. They only had 88 Oscars prior to, get right the one job they have.
This Oscar flub was so star-studded. You've got the presenters, Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. You've got the host of the show, Jimmy Kimmel. From La La Land, there's the two stars, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. From Moonlight, there's Mahershala Ali and Janelle Monáe.
It just sucked for everybody involved.
Going into the night, La La Land was seemingly the favorite to win. It had 14 nominations, tying for the most ever with Titanic and All About Eve.
When La La Land was announced the winner, everybody gets up, everybody starts talking, everybody goes to the bathroom. I think this happened at every Oscars party.
Some people probably turned off their TV because the moment happened at 12:01.
By the end, you're like, yeah, I've watched this movie win a bunch of awards, and now it won another one, and now I'm going to bed. Send one more tweet and then hit the hay.
I remember there was just like one person, my friend Gus, who's still watching the telecast and is like, guys, come back.
All my friends were sitting there, and when it was initially announced, they got up and walked away from the couch. But I'm an editor of People. I'm sitting there. I want to see every single thing that happens. And thank God I did, because what? Moonlight?
Something's happening.
There was a sense of, oh, the show's over, but it's just beginning.
They'd won a bunch already, so who cares?
Also important to note, even though La La Land was an awards frontrunner, of course not everyone was a La La Land fan. There had been some controversy about the film's plot.
At the time, there's a lot of conversation about just like the subject of La La Land and like jazz, and a white man being like, but jazz is not, like it was a whole conversation. And I felt like that paralleled the conversations that were happening around the films.
I like La La Land fine, but it really did become this thing of like La La Land is the white movie and Moonlight represents all the diversity in Hollywood. And so like, as a person who, you know, wants to see more diversity in Hollywood and specifically diversity in who's getting awarded at award shows, like I was rooting for Moonlight in a huge way. So it sort of became like a very symbolic race between these two movies.
La La Land was cool. I mean, it was cute. It was really fun. But Moonlight was really like, it got me. Like I really felt seen by that film. So of course I was like rooting for Moonlight to win everything.
There's so much that went into this Oscar flub, but it all started with who was there to present Best Picture.
Hollywood legends often present Best Picture, and that year the Oscar producers reunited two Hollywood legends for the 50th anniversary of Bonnie and Clyde.
You have Faye Dunaway, icon. Warren Beatty, icon.
Their words, even their presence has such gravity on the stage of the Academy Awards. It's undeniable.
I think it's so funny. Faye leaning to Warren and being like, you're impossible, when he was truly struggling. And I think it's even funnier that he then was like, oh, I'm impossible? You read it then.
I've rewatched this clip 1,000 times and I've never heard Faye Dunaway say that about Warren Beatty. That's amazing.
It seems like she's bringing her past history with Warren into this moment when really he's not being difficult. He just has the wrong envelope and is confused.
Faye Dunaway leans in, La La Land, with such gravity and confidence. Real mommy dearest callback. She was channeling Joan Crawford.
Don't with me, fellas! We now know that it wasn't Faye and Warren's fault, it was the wrong envelope. But when you're watching them go back and forth while presenting, there were so many theories about what was actually happening. Was it tension, difficulty reading a prompter, a clunky awards show bit?
You're like, don't go for a joke right now. Like, come on. And you know that's what Faye Dunaway is thinking.
I don't think he's gonna wanna say, I don't think I have the right envelope. Like, it's all live, it's all happening right then. What do you do?
I think it's like a battle between like somebody who wants to like get it right and somebody who's like, we are professionals, let's just push through even though this doesn't make any sense.
So La La Land's announced, the entire La La Land crew waltzes on stage to accept the award. The first producer, Jordan Horowitz, gives an emotional speech, but by the time the second producer, Mark Platt, that's Ben Platt's dad by the way, starts his speech, there's already commotion happening in the background.
My favorite thing to do is go back and watch this moment on YouTube. Pay attention to a different person on stage in the background of the speech while La La Land is accepting the award. Especially Emma Stone, you can tell that there are like people rushing around backstage.
You can tell something is wrong, and it seems like the third La La Land producer, Fred Berger, knows something is wrong, but Mark tosses the speech-giving baton to him, and Fred reluctantly goes on to speak and ends the speech with,
"We did lose."
It feels like so sour to me, the way that he admits, who could blame him? Imagine getting through like the biggest acceptance speech of your career and then hearing Emma Stone in the background going, oh no.
I think he was on stage like, well, this is probably the only time I would get to say these people's names. And even though we didn't win, like, let me give them this so that they feel something, because like we gonna feel pretty empty very soon.
The other moment that really stuck out, which clarified so many aspects of what was going on, is you see Warren Beatty about to step up to the mic, and before he can say anything, La La Land producer Jordan Horowitz steps in and he says, there's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture, which everyone's like, what? And he says, no, this is not a joke. They read the wrong thing.
Could you imagine if that was a joke?
No, you guys actually won. Come up. Just kidding. It is a joke. You know, like that would be an amazing prank to pull at the Oscars if you never wanted to work again.
At this point, the entire theater, the entire country, and I would argue a lot of the world is just in shock.
Those award shows can go really long and get really boring. And by the end, but they snapped you out of it, Gorge.
A sharp-eyed photographer snapped an instantly iconic photo of the first few rows.
You've got Meryl Streep, Michelle Williams and her forever awards show date Busy Phillips, Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, David Oyelowo, and you can even spot Denzel Washington, Salma Hayek, Lucas Hedges, and The Rock.
Busy Phillips has said that even though she wasn't friends with him, she turned to Ben Affleck in the moment and said, "You have to do something, thinking he'd have the authority, being, Batman at the time and all.
Busy's husband even had 2 prints of a photo from the photographer blown up and framed for her and Michelle. It's quite the masterpiece.
I think I might want that for my house, and I'm not even in it.
I'm sure that I would want to have it prominently displayed above my fireplace.
We also saw Moonlight castmates Mahershala Ali and Trevante Rhodes embracing, and then the camera pans over to show their director, Barry Jenkins, having an out-of-body experience.
All those famous people with their mouths agape. That's why in the moment I was like, this is a bit. This reaction is humongous. This has to be planned. And when it wasn't, I was like, oh no, we are just not used to people messing up on such a huge scale.
So many celebrity actions were caught on camera, like Viola Davis being shocked, Nicole gossiping with Octavia, and Viggo in front of Taraji, Charlize Theron, Javier Bardem, Dev Patel, all witnessing history. Even Samuel L. Jackson shedding a tear is caught on camera.
So all of this is going on. Jimmy Kimmel is sitting in the audience next to Matt Damon, where he planned to end the show from, but of course he has to rush back on stage to help clear things up.
Jimmy Kimmel, God bless his soul.
He was very graceful, very funny.
Jimmy Kimmel would have lost all of his comedian points for me if he did not make reference to the Steve Harvey Miss Universe debacle.
Steve Harvey accidentally crowned the wrong winner at the Miss Universe pageant just over a year before this Oscar. So of course, Jimmy made the connection.
Okay, folks, I have to apologize.
It was a very similar thing. It was the same awkwardness. And the best way as a comedian to deal with an awkward moment like that is to just slam someone with a callback.
I'm sure Steve Harvey was at home like, what do I gotta do with this? I'm like, don't bring my mistake back up because y'all did it.
Steve Harvey literally said that as he watched this mix-up live on TV, he lit a cigar, he drank a glass of scotch, and he celebrated. He said, "I was free. Thank you, God."
While the Moonlight team was still making their way to the stage, Warren stepped back in.
Warren clearly wanted everyone to know that he had the envelope for Emma Stone's Best Actress win, which is why he was confused.
I think Warren Beatty really didn't want to be blamed for this moment.
Did they think Emma Stone was an executive producer on La La Land? What were they thinking when they saw like big Emma Stone for La La Land at that point? Like she just won the Oscar too.
Warren Beatty was onto something with not wanting it to be scapegoat. Because I knew from the moment they read it, I was like, who they gonna scapegoat? The old people and the people with the least amount of power.
At the time, watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, Warren Beatty, he's a person of mature age. Maybe he's just like disoriented and like doesn't know what's going on.
Warren was like, look, I have led a career. Like, do not let this be the thing that ruined me. Like, you cannot ruin me with this flub.
And Faye Dunaway, she's a very professional. She shows up, she hits her mark, and she says her line. She was like, give me the card, babe. I'm just gonna say it. Okay, well, there's a movie on here. La La Land, toots. Let's go. Let's keep it moving.
Warren cleared things up, but we never heard from Faye that night. And everybody was talking about it. What happened to Faye?
You mean Faye Runaway? I mean, she was in the getaway car from Bonnie and Clyde, piecing out.
Faye Dunaway knows. She's like, I don't need to be in this drama, okay? I showed up and I looked fabulous and I did my job.
And Faye Dunaway made quite a getaway. She got the hell out of there. She read the wrong name and she split.
Contrary to all those jokes that were being made, Faye Dunaway didn't go anywhere. She was right there on that stage.
There are photos. I'm sick of this. Women are difficult. Women are bad. Stop it. She was good. She was there. Warren Beatty just, he's got that masculine energy, just pushes herself to the front. She was just being polite back there. There's pictures.
She may not have been getting out of the way in order to escape being blamed for the mistake. I think that she was getting out of the way because that's what you do if you're presenting an award.
And she was like, all right, y'all do you. I'm gonna chill out in the back. Clyde can have it. Bonnie was being smart.
If this mix-up wasn't complicated enough, then Emma Stone went to the press room for her Best Actress win, and she said,
I also was holding my Best Actress in a Leading Role card that entire time.
Oh, Emma was bitter boots, rightfully so.
I don't mean to start stuff, but whatever story that was, I had that card.
Listen, I would not have been the magnanimous, lovely, gracious person. I would have been like, y'all are making up stories because I had my best actor card in my hand. Someone's getting fired.
If I were Emma Stone, I would be holding onto my envelope because they were moving Oscars around that night. And you just like never know if somebody's gonna be like, actually, honey, congrats, but not anymore.
The truth is that Warren and Emma were both right. The two Best Actress cards were both legitimate because there are actually duplicate envelopes for every single category at the Oscars.
Even Emma Stone wouldn't assume, and she's been in a lot of award shows, Emma Stone wouldn't assume that there would be two envelopes.
The accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers, or PwC, has overseen the Oscars since 1934. They're the ones that are responsible for tabulating ballots and handing presenters envelopes, so you'd think they'd have this down by now.
On show night, there's 2 accountants and each has 1 envelope for each category as a backup and so presenters can enter from either side of the stage.
Someone from the Academy actually explained what went down. Leonardo DiCaprio presented Best Actress to Emma Stone and got his envelope from accountant number 1, Martha. So accountant number 2, Brian, had the extra lead actress envelope.
The protocol was that Brian would have the Emma Stone envelope out until she was announced as the winner. And then he would put it back in his suitcase, which he failed to do because he was distracted by tweeting a photo that he took backstage of Emma with her new Oscar.
It's so crazy that because of this moment, we now have to know so much about the ins and outs of the Oscar ceremony. Like, nobody knows how the Golden Globes work.
So we know there's 2 envelopes. Warren clutched his for the rest of the night as proof of his innocence, refusing to turn it over despite multiple requests. An awards consultant who worked on both La La Land and Moonlight's Oscar campaigns even remembered him holding it above his head backstage so that no one could reach it, kind of like a basketball player.
Warren's wife, Annette Bening, later said on Jimmy Kimmel Live that she called him immediately after the show, and he picked up saying,
I have the envelopes and I'm not giving them to anyone. He took the envelopes home, but he gave Barry Jenkins his for winning for Moonlight.
I see. And the other one?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
is
know.
a really
Maybe
good.
it's still in my house.
That's a piece of Oscar history. Make sure the maid doesn't throw that in the garbage.
According to Michael DeLuca, one of the Oscars producers, what he thinks should have happened the instant Faye Dunaway named the wrong winner is that one of the accountants should have walked directly to the presenters, quietly stated the problem, and given them the correct envelope.
The 2 accountants are supposed to memorize every winner's name before the show, so that I guess they could jump in and fix things if anything like this ever went down, which it did.
I mean, what do you do? It's like an unprecedented moment for these accountants. First of all, I would be so scared. I'd be shitting my pants if I were the accountant that screwed up this Oscar moment. I mean, I'm sure that they didn't want to show their faces on camera. Can you imagine, on top of everything else, you just messed up your one job and suddenly you have a screen grab of you standing next to Emma Stone going...
After all this, the accounting firm issued a statement a few hours after the show, saying,
We sincerely apologize to Moonlight, La La Land, Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway, and Oscar viewers for the error that was made during the award announcement for Best Picture.
The presenters had mistakenly been given the wrong category envelope and when discovered, was immediately corrected. We are currently investigating how this could have happened and deeply regret that this occurred.
We appreciate the grace with which the nominees, the Academy, ABC, and Jimmy Kimmel handled the situation.
They were like, yeah, we gave them the wrong cards, but you know, we corrected it right away and everyone was really nice about it. It's like, the cards are the important part, Tootsie Lou.
I just think the only person that really needs to be truly apologized to, it's Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty, because they literally set them up to look like just like their minds had gone.
A month later, the Academy decided to continue working with PricewaterhouseCoopers. And this is after, of course, their 83-year partnership. They wanted to keep it going. But Martha and Brian, no, they didn't get the invitation to come back. Despite everything that happened, Moonlight was the best picture that night. But when you think back with everything, all the craziness, they really kind of got the short end of the stick.
I absolutely think the Moonlight producers sort of got overshadowed by the drama of the moment. It's a telecast, they only have so much time to give, and there's a lot of producers that wanted to give a speech, and I'm sure that they were feeling rushed and feeling a little bit cheated.
It was so uncomfortable for the Moonlight people to then go up there and be like, thank y'all. Like, this is weird.
Now, you know, everyone remembers Moonlight winning the Oscar, but more so than that, people remember how Moonlight won that Oscar. And I think like that is a shame because it's such an incredible movie and they deserved just a pure moment of joy and the spotlight.
I have to say, there was a little glee within me because I thought that they won. And I was like, how dare they? Moonlight was beautiful. It cried. It resonated with me.
I thought Moonlight should have won anyway.
To their credit, I'd say the La La Land producers seemed very gracious about their loss, especially Jordan Horowitz, who really shepherded everyone through those first moments of confusion.
I think it's important that La La Land really did concede the stage to Moonlight.
That's one time that I would have been like, okay, these guys are justified to just like, go fight everybody. Just like, go sue, go yell, ask for the manager. I would have been like, it's like, I get it. You won Best Picture for like 2 minutes.
I think the La La Land people handled it about as classily as they could. The tone of voice of them going, no, you won, like come up, is really like sweet in a way.
Moonlight really deserved it, and I think I'm so glad that there was like never any discussion. I don't think that like people ever talked about like, oh, it was like a stealing of an Oscar or anything.
And by the way, because of this big flub, we got to see the La La Land and Moonlight teams all together on stage. So many people, like you've never seen that on the Oscar stage.
Is this the end of SNL, like the credits? It was like 10,000 people on stage and they were like kind of shaking hands, and I'm looking, I'm like, what's happening?
There are so many photos out there that show you even more of what really happened that wasn't caught on the TV cameras.
I mean, Ryan Gosling hugging the younger cast of Moonlight, it's just picture perfect.
Here's a fun fact you might not know about the aftermath of this whole mix-up. Glenn Weiss, the director of that year's telecast, actually won an Emmy for directing the Oscars.
If you watch the Oscars all the way to the end, something happened that we didn't plan. My hat is off to every single person on headsets in the Dolby Theater that night. Without a good crew, we are nothing.
And the Academy has also brought Glenn back to direct every Academy Awards show since.
What's great is the next year, Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty were invited back to do kind of a do-over and almost laugh and wink at what had happened the year prior.
If I were Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty, I would demand to be brought back and have another shot at announcing the winner of Best Picture.
A lot of pressure, but he killed it. Second time's a charm.
Guillermo del Toro snatched that envelope from Warren Beatty's hands. He checked it, really wanted to make sure that it said The Shape of Water, even held it up to the audience to show all of them. And of course, we all know what it was referencing.
Now, like at least for a while, everyone's going to be looking at that envelope a little bit closer just to make sure that the person who just announced the winner didn't screw up.
There's never just one flub. There's always the comeback from the flub the next year. It's something that once was a negative thing for someone is now a positive joke, and it's always good. That's why you always got to look for the flubs in life. That's the best part of life anyway, right? You trip, you get back up, you're Jennifer Lawrence, you win some more awards.
Let's be honest, the flubs make the Oscars so much more fun.
These things happen, and I think you just have to have compassion for these moments where things don't go as planned.
I don't know if it's flubbed up for me to say this, but I love a good Oscar flub. In fact, I prefer an Oscar flub.
It's what we live for.